Good evening. Welcome to the March 2nd, 2023 Smyrna Municipal Planning Commission meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. And with that, Tony is going to lead us in prayer and Andrew with the pledge. If you'd stand with us, please.
Most gracious Father, we just thank you so much for this town, Father, and for this country that you've blessed us to live in. We thank you, Father, for all the blessings that you've given us in our lives, and we just ask that you guide us through this meeting, Father, as we conduct the city's business, that you just give us guidance and wisdom, Father, and that all decisions we do be made in the best interest of our town, Father, and glory to you. All these things we ask in Christ your Son's name. Amen.
Please join me now.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tony and Andrew. Our next item is citizen comments. Kevin?
None tonight.
Okay. Our next agenda item is approval of the minutes of the February 2nd, 2023 meeting. Counselor, are the minutes in order for this meeting?
In order to form, Chairman.
Are there any questions from the commission? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes of the February 2nd, 2023 meeting signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved. Our next item is old business. It's an annexation zoning and plan of services request. Kevin, it's my understanding that this has been, there has been a deferral requested. Could
They
you?
have requested a 2-month deferral, yes.
Okay. And what is staff's?
We're fine with that, yes.
You're good with the
We're
2-month?
good, we're good with the 2-month deferral, sure.
Does anyone have any questions for Kevin concerning the deferral request? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the deferral.
I have a motion. I'm sorry?
For 2 months.
For 2 months.
I have a
Would be the
motion,
May meeting.
okay, to approve the deferral request for 2 months. Do I have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor of this deferral request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This deferral is approved. We are now on to new business. Our first item is an annexation zoning and plan of service request. Matt Huff, Gamble Design Collaborative, south of the intersection of Bradley Road and Rocky Fork Elmville Road, annexation and PRD zoning.
Yeah, this is an annexation request. It's actually 6 tracts of land, all being requested together collectively. They total about 67.68 acres. Their requested zoning is a PRD zoning. This would be within Consolidated Utility District's service area for water. The town would be providing all other services if the annexation is executed. The current zoning in the county is RM, which is a medium density residential. Surrounding zoning is in town are 3 different PRDs as well as RM in Rutherford County. Land use plan would support medium density single family residential in this area. The major thoroughfare plan does designate Rocky Fork Elmville Road as a minor arterial. So adequate right of way would be required to be dedicated as a part of this development as the plats get submitted. This requested PRD is for 212 single-family lots. These would be 210 new houses. There are 2 existing houses that would remain as a part of the development. We would be surrounding about 9 tracts of land as with the town limits with this annexation. 4 of the 6 tracts requested do currently have houses. Again, 2 of those are proposed to remain, 2 of those would be removed. Staff is also recommending annexation of the existing right-of-way of approximately 302 linear feet of Rocky Fork Elmville Road and 1,285 linear feet of the Briley Road as a part of this annexation request. And those will be the existing county right-of-ways that front the requested property for annexation. We had a few comments still to remain, or still remaining. One would be a traffic study is required, and any improvements recommended by that study would be required to be completed by the developer. We do have a little bit of concern about the existing width of Briley Road. Required width would be 24 feet. This development would be required to upgrade that road to at least this width, which may require dedication of additional right-of-way. They've looked at it. They believe that the existing right-of-way to be 50 feet and so that they feel like they can make that happen within that existing right-of-way. But that was something we would look at more closely, certainly with the construction plans and the plats when those come in, if this is approved. We did ask for a clarification on the proposed width of the driveways. They're shown as 16 feet. Staff would recommend 18 feet. That would be 2 9-foot parking spaces similar. So we would recommend a 2 feet wider driveway widths. We'd asked them to show, there's a development across the street called Derby Run. We did ask them to show those entrances. We want to be sure everything was lining up. And the proposed entrances of this development do line up with those entrances, one of which is already constructed, one of which is not. But so that we do have alignment with those, so that's good. So we can remove that comment from our list. The remaining comments are all from Consolidated Utility District. They did indicate that they can meet the fire flow requirement that we have. Their will serve letter did have a little caveat that because there's going to be several connections, they'll have to evaluate this on a section by section basis. So we will be something we have to monitor as things go through, that they are able to maintain that fire flow. Again, we did review it as in front of you there. It's basically 3 different access points to Rocky Fork Elmville Road, 1 access point to Briley Road. There are also stub streets to some adjoining tracks that would be proposed and be part of it as well, including stubbing it to the Linwood development, which would be south of the property, immediately to the south. So they would have connectivity to those surrounding developments. They're meeting all of our requirements as far as parking, setbacks, size of the homes, and all those things that we have. So I believe that's all that I've got.
Okay, questions for Kevin?
Catherine, Chairman, I'm not going to vote on this one and the next one as well under rezoning. So I'll abstain and will not discuss.
Okay. So noted. Other, well, that was a comment, so do we have any questions?
Kevin, the 2 parcels on Briley, if the city is requiring right-of-way, will that be encroaching on those 2 properties as you come off Elmville Road onto Briley for the easement for the road? Because that road, I think, in there now is very small.
It is, and we would, one of those that I think when we annexed a portion of Briley, when that one track was requested, there were several tracks there right there in the corner that were already annexed. The right-of-way portion of this, if any additional right-of-way is required, would only be they could only require that from these folks. You know, we can't require it
So
from,
it would start at their first parcel.
as far as if there is any right-of-way required. There may, if there is already a 50-foot right-of-way there, there wouldn't really need to be any additional right-of-way. Now, that, we would anticipate that the widening of that road would go to Rocky Fork Allenville Road, because this is going to obviously increase quite a bit of traffic.
Right.
And this is outside of anything that the traffic study may require. But at minimum, we feel like we got to get to a 24-foot pavement width if we're going to increase the traffic to this level that we're talking about here. Obviously, you're going to increase, a lot of this traffic will go to Rocky Fork Allenville Road but as well, but you're going to increase quite a bit of traffic onto Briley Road there. And so we felt it was important to widen the road the entire way. Again, right-of-way would only be on this developer's property, but as far as if there is any additional right-of-way needed, but the widening would happen within that existing right-of-way all the way down.
Where their property starts.
Yeah, from where their property starts, really from where the road, the new road connection would be all the way down to Rocky Fork Allenville Road, as far as where the widening would be. Because it's 18, maybe 20 feet, so it's not a huge amount of widening, but still 3 to 4 feet potentially, maybe as much as 6.
Do you know if anybody has talked to the people that are kind of inside that, the one that's staying in the county that doesn't want to be annexed?
I don't know. I have not talked to them.
Okay.
I don't know if they may have.
I didn't know if they had called and asked. The sewer connection from this, would it come through the back of Derby Run
Yes.
to Rocky Fork Anvil and then across?
You're going, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments? Kevin, when I looked at this, I looked at the PRD zoning for Derby Run, and also knowing that Linwood will be brought in with a PRD. So when I was looking at it, this appeared to be similar zoning as to what surrounded this. Is that accurate?
Yeah, as far as, at least within the town, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's consistent, the density is very similar, lot sizes, all that is very similar to what has been
And
proposed up there already.
as far as connectivity goes, we have several different points of ingress and egress, and I also noticed that we are also stubbing in anticipation of additional growth and the ability to go from one development to another. Was staff satisfied with that as
Yeah,
well?
on the east and west side, as you go further south there, as well as into the Linwood development as well when it develops. So, yes.
And I do feel comfortable with the road annexation as well, as far as giving us the ability to do, or to have our requirements to be met, and also knowing that there is a traffic study that's going to be required, and that, anything that comes from that would be implemented as well.
Sure.
Okay. Anything further from the commission? If not, do I have a motion?
Move to approve the staff comments.
I have a motion to approve from staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
This motion is approved. Our next item is a rezoning request by Owen Jose, 9351 Rocky Fork Amable Road, R3 to PRD.
Yes, this is 2 tracts of land that have been requested to be rezoned, currently zoned R3, and it's 77.1 acres total between the two. The surrounding zoning is a mix of R3 in town and RM in Rutherford County. The land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential in this area. It just says on the previous request, the major thoroughfare plan does designate Rocky Fork Elmville Road as a minor arterial, so adequate right-of-way would be required to be dedicated as a part of this development. This requested PRD is for 85 single-family lots and 26 townhomes, so a total of 111 units. All houses would be developed under the Housing for Older Persons Act. So all 111. Sewer is available here off-site at the Westover subdivision. That's really just kind of an informational comment. The fire department did have some concerns maneuvering the truck through the cul-de-sacs. They did submit some revised drawings. We do still need a couple things. We need some details on what truck they actually utilized and within that auto turn. And so, and depending on the information from that, we might need to get an updated auto turn. And also that, so I think that's something we can work through. That is something that we do still need them to work with our fire department and work through that. Comment number 7, the original submittals had side setbacks of 5 feet on one side and 7 on the other, and we'd ask them to show those at 7.5 feet, which is what we typically do on all new PRDs, and that has been corrected and addressed, so we can remove that comment. Number 8 would still need to remain, again, very similar comment to the previous request. This would require a traffic study, and so my understanding is that is underway, but we have not received it yet, but it is underway. We'd ask them, with that, a note, one of the notes regarding fire flow pressure, we'd ask them to revise that. That still needs to be done. It's not a big deal, but the way it's worded, it doesn't make any sense. So we can clear that up. It's regarding fire flow and what's required. And then we'd ask them to add a note. On corner lots, they're showing that the side that the house does not face would have a little bit less of a 20-foot setback instead of the 35, and we're okay with that as long as we just ask them to add a note that no garage will be allowed to face that street, whatever. So, and so they have done that, so we can remove that as well. The rest of the comments are from Consolidated Utility District, and again, they have. We still need to get the will serve letter on and everything with that. So, again, this is 2 access points to Rocky Fork Elmville Road. There's the one track, the larger track actually does not have any road frontage, and so they would utilize the road frontage they have with at 2 locations. That is stub one of those streets into that adjoining track. We did ask, and they did add a stub to the west. I looked at another stub where you kind of have that roundabout in the middle there to look at making that a stubbing both sides. The topography of that property to the east is at that location would not make sense to do that. It's very steep at that spot. Again, you do have that stub on the kind of the north side of that track, as well as additional frontage onto the Rocky Fork Elmville Road there. So I think that makes more sense from if that property ever develops, the access would be from those locations. You do have some pretty steep topography on the south side of this too, where they kind of have the cul-de-sac shown. And so that we're good with the access. With the topography that's in this area, that's probably the best access and connectivity you can get from this development. Again, you do have a mixture of single family and townhomes. The townhomes, the 26 of those, they are proposed kind of on the very southern part of the development, really well within the development. Those would be developed with a horizontal property regime. The rest of these would be separate plots. But again, we have the open space requirements, and with the correction on the setbacks, those issues, I think everything is in order with regards to parking and everything, especially since this is a 55 up development. There's going to be adequate parking for this development, so I think that's all I got.
Kevin, let's do this. Let's give an explanation of what the Housing for Older Person Act entails. I mean, you don't have to recite it word for word, but let's.
Yeah, essentially, it's, I think it's 80%, is that right? At least 80% of the houses within the area have to be sold to people that are age 55 and up. They're deed restricted to that. The development, there's some state requirements that have to be, that's a state law. And so, and we have something that Jeff had come up with, Mr. Beach, came up with something, kind of just a one-page commitment that they make, that they sign to do that as well. That's, we did receive that as, send that to them, did receive that as a part of their submittal this week on that. So that would be tied to this, that'll kind of go with this PUD through the process if it gets approved. So that'd be an additional way that we can enforce that if there is ever an issue as well, so.
Okay. So this would be something that if approved, it could not be changed unless it was brought back before
Yes.
with a change, requested
It
change
would
to
be,
the
it would be a
PRD.
PUD amendment, yes.
Yeah.
That would have to come to this planning commission and council. yeah.
And we're starting to see, which I'm glad to see, we're seeing, I think, a bit of an uptick as far as these developments for our senior community. I know, Mark, that's something that you've championed for quite some time, and I'm happy to see that being brought to us in Smyrna.
And the waiver and agreement that we added also gives the town the ability to basically audit within 10 days' notice, that we can ensure that 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that the residents there are keeping up with the 80% of 55 and up.
And you're comfortable with that
Yes.
process? Okay. All right. Other questions or comments from the commission?
Kevin, do you have any concern about from the roundabout or from either street? Most of that development from the roundabouts, from the roundabout to the end of that road there. Is there any concern about only having one way in, one way out? If something were to happen there, getting to those end properties?
I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, I would like to see a little bit more. I just think this is the best we can get here because of the topography. If you stub the street, it's going to be a stub street that's never going to get extended, so didn't make sense, like
Well,
to another one to the east or something like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking another way to get from somewhere in the back out on Rocky Fork Anvil Road or another road out of there, but looks like Rocky Fork Anvil's the only one available with the rest of the property behind it.
Yeah, and it would be. I mean, eventually you could have a potential, another access to Rocky Fork Anvil to the west there, if that adjacent property to the west develops. But again, yeah, I mean, and if you look at it on a flat map with no topography,
Right.
there's several places to stuff some streets in, but I mean, you're getting into 20% or higher slopes on several of the surrounding hillsides to this property. Again, that property to the east, where a natural stub would be, is one of those. I mean, so yeah, in a perfect world, yes, I would like to see more.
Yeah.
I just don't know that there's any practical way to make that happen because of the topography in this area.
Okay, other questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve staff
I
comments.
have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are now on to preliminary plats. Our first one is Burnett Ridge, Fortitude Trail, owner, developer, David Patterson.
Yeah, this is a preliminary plat. This was a PRD that just came through very recently. And so this would be the preliminary plat. This would be for the development. It's 70 lots, 23.13 acres. We had several comments, which were standard comments, 1 through 6, basically. They would all need to remain. And then we did ask for the road name, as well as a 911 approval for all the road names. We have received that, so we can remove comment number 7. Number 8 really is a standard comment there regarding the fire flow requirements. So, and I think there is a note on the plat with that as well. So we would want to keep comment 8 kind of as a standard comment. Comment number 9, they had shown the additional building setback off of public easements on the side lot lines. We asked them to label it, and that's been done, so we can remove comment 9. There was a blanket easement shown in the front setback on the lot details. They've removed that. We did, this PUD was approved requiring a 35-foot setback to the garage, but did allow a closer setback as far as the house itself, just not the garage. And so we did ask them to add that detail on the typical lots, and that's been done. And then comments number 12, there's a couple of lots that do appear to be critical lots, and so we asked them to add that to the plat, and that's been taken care of. So really, all of the outstanding comments have been addressed. All that are left are standard comments, again, 1 through 6 and 8. And so with those comments, we would recommend approval.
Kevin, what does critical lot mean?
Yeah, critical lots is something we added to the subregs a couple of years ago now, maybe. Basically, we had some issues where some lots, primarily because of steepness, when the builders would get out to actually build those lots, it would be very difficult to build on and the driveways would end up being really very steep, or you would have very large retaining walls and things of that nature. And there were a lot of issues that were created because of the lots, primarily again the steepness of the lots. We are also within that, if there's sinkholes on them, if there's some floodplain on them, that type of thing. And basically what that means is they get noted on the plat, and before a building permit can be issued, they have to bring in a site plan that meets how they're going to actually build and develop on this lot, each individual lot, before they can get a building permit. It's just an additional review of the actual building that's going to go on there, at least not the building itself, but how it's going to be developed. Because we're getting into some areas that are tougher to develop now, and it's creating some issues with some of the lots, and so.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions or comments? I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the staff comment.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. We are now on to final plats. Our first plat that we're looking at is Cheney Roads, lots 1 through 7, 314 to 324 Cheney Road, owner, developer, J. Cortland Coleman.
Yeah, this is the final plat. There's 7 lots on Cheney Road, zoned R4, 7 lots on 3.77 acres. They had 4 comments left. They're all very standard comments that we had that would all need to remain. This is consistent with the approved preliminary plat. And so we would recommend it with those 4 standard comments.
Okay. Questions for Kevin? I will entertain a motion then.
Move to approve the staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion's approved. Our next item is Oak Meadows, Phase 3, Lee Road, owner developer John Burns, J.M. Burns LLC.
Yeah, this is the final plat. This is Phase 3 of Oak Meadows. It's 30 lots, 8.7 acres. It's in the Oak Meadows PUD. We had a few comments. The first 3 were really just standard comments to remain. Comment number 4, we had some easements that are irregular as far as widths or as far as their where they are on the line. So we'd ask for some distances so when the inspectors go out there, they can have some, they know exactly where the easements get staked and they know where they are when the buildings get built. They really have addressed all those except there's one easement on lot 91. There's one little spot. There's one corner that would be good if we get a distance on so we know exactly how far it is from the lot line. So they really addressed that, just that one little tweak there. And we can take off number 5 as well. We're good with what they've got shown there. So really just comments 1 through 3 and then number 4, just again, just keeping that just to address that one spot on lot 91. And with those comments as amended, we would recommend this to you.
Okay, questions for Kevin or staff? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve with staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. We are now on to site plans. Our first site plan is 825 Rock Springs Road. Owner, developer, Bison Construction and Equipment, LLC.
Yeah, I'm doing the site plans tonight. Mitch is out of town at a class, so getting his continuing education hours in. So this first site plan is on 825 Rock Springs Road. It's vacant tract of land. They are proposing for 2 buildings there to be a mix of retail and restaurant uses. It's near the intersection of Needham Drive and Rock Springs Road, as well as Old Nashville Highway and Rock Springs Road intersection. They're proposing a single access easement off of Rock Springs Road, or a single access point off of Rock Springs Road. Accompanying this site plan approval request, there is a mandatory referral request, which is a separate item on your agenda, because they have requested an easement across some property that the town owns to provide access to this site. So, again, that's a separate request, but they have requested a permanent access easement. Again, that would be the only access point to the site. It is from a traffic flow and safety standpoint make a lot of sense at that location, more so than if they were to use the road frontage they have, because there is a curb there and they would have an access into a curb that wouldn't be as safe probably as where they're showing it. So there have been a few changes to this plan since we sent the report out to you. The vehicle use square footage is 1.22 acres. That's what's being proposed. The square footage of open space and landscaping is 5,000, requires 5,338 square feet, and they're showing 5,730. That is a little bit of a change. The total parking required is 139, and they're showing 144 spaces. Is a little bit of a change. They had 146 previously. The handicap parking requirement is 5, and they are showing 5. The landscape plan, they do show a type C landscape buffer on that eastern property line, which does abut R3 zoning. There is an overhead TVA utility easement, which does divide the property, and so there's some limited landscaping you can do in a TVA easement, but you can do some shrubbery, and they have shown that. Streetscaping is shown along Rock Springs Road with additional shrubbery and trees within those landscape islands, throughout the parking lot. Design review, this is something that has changed since the original report went out. The elevations do show buildings, they're kind of a mixture of brick, stone, glass, and ephes. The rear of the southern building, which is the larger of the two buildings, is now shown with brick. They did have some metal on the rear of that building originally, but that has been changed. The sides in front of the building would have a mixture of the brick, stone, and glass, and ephes. The northern or the smaller building has a mix of all primary materials and ephes for all faces. So those two meet design review now. So that is a change from what you had seen on your previous report. Standard comments, there's about 7 of those. Those would all need to remain. So the staff comments, number 1 would need to remain. Any approval of the site plan would be subject to approval of that permanent access easement being granted by the town council. Number 2, we did look at this. It did recommend that no more than 5,000 square feet of the building be allowed to be occupied as restaurant space, just to ensure we have adequate parking. So that would need to remain. Comment number 3 was our comment regarding the design review deficiencies. Those have all been down, but that has all been taken care of, so we can remove that comment. Number 4, they did address the dimensions for the loading spaces. They are shown, these buildings are basically, the loading zones are shown on the front of the property, or front of the buildings, basically. The buildings there's not going to be access behind the buildings as far as vehicular access. There would be sidewalks, and so there were rear doors, but there would not be vehicular access. So those loading zones are shown in front of the buildings. They did provide those, so that we can remove that comment. Number 5, we would need to keep the backflow preventers are needed for each building. That's how the utilities comment. So then they'll need to look at that. And we did ask them to add some additional dumpsters. They do have 4 shown now. That's part of the reason some of the parking spaces numbers went down a little bit. There's 4 different dumpsters now, where they originally started off with only 2. So we feel better about that. So that has been addressed now, so we can remove comment number 6 as well. So we need to keep the standard comments, and then 1, 2, and 5 under staff comments. And with that, staff would recommend this to you.
Kevin, as far as the 5,000 square feet of restaurant space, does that apply to, I guess, collectively over?
That's collectively for both buildings, yes.
Okay. So no more than that in
Right.
any combination?
Right.
Okay. I do like the fact that we've moved the entrance down from that curve. That's important, I think, and it looks like we do have enough distance there from the intersection. There wouldn't be a concern there as
Right.
well.
Correct.
As far as the easement granting, is that something that the council would take up as something that the developer would bring before the council?
Yeah, that's on your agenda later on under mandatory referral.
Okay.
It is a separate agenda item. We do have the letter of request from them, so that is something that would be a separate recommendation.
So we would make the recommendation here, and it's up to council to
Yes.
approve that?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Kevin, the road that ties into Rock Springs, it looks like it's offset from the church outlet. Would it be better to line it up?
That's where it would be. That's their intent. I think we geo-referenced this plan into the drawing, onto the map. So, but yes, that would be the intent of how we would look at it to ensure it would line up with the
Church.
With the church drive. Yes, was certainly the intent.
I think one of the plans they brought had them in the curve coming out, and this is a lot better access point getting in and out of there. The main building behind it, is it large enough for fire protection? Would you need to get behind it to fight a fire if a fire were to break out?
It would be in the front. They would, yeah. I mean,
It's within the distance required.
It's with, okay,
Yeah, they're okay.
There's access points for both ends.
okay.
Fire department's then comfortable.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve with staff comment.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments from Andrew. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion's approved. Our next site plan is Pinto Place Townhomes, Pinto Drive. Owner developer Egbert Ribeiro.
Yeah,
Scylla
this is,
Smoke.
yeah, this is a site plan on Pinto Place. Townhomes is strictly behind Town Hall here. It's multifamily residential development on Pinto Drive. The PRD was approved by council for, basically for 22 townhomes. So the surrounding zoning is a mix of R4 duplexes to the south and then C2 along the other property boundaries. It would have 2 access points to Pinto Drive. This is a property that has been zoned, that had actually a site plan approval as well. That site plan approval has expired, and so now they're wanting to move forward with the development. And so they're resubmitting it. So it's essentially the same plan you've seen before. About 6/10 of an acre vehicular use area, which would require 2,613 square feet of landscaping and open space, and they're showing about 17,000 square feet. Parking requires 44 spaces, and they're showing 60. There's no handicap parking required, but they are showing 2 spaces. They do have a type C landscape buffer along the property boundaries, as well as trees and landscape islands around the parking lot. And they do have street trees along Pinto Drive, as well as a sidewalk along Pinto Drive. Architectural elevations show the buildings to be built entirely with brick and fiber cement accents. The approved PRD did show a mix of brick and fiber cement boards, so that would be consistent with the approved PRD. We had 4 standard comments there, and all 4 of those would need to remain, and so we would recommend approval with those 4 standard comments.
Kevin, is this exactly what we've seen before and approved?
It is.
The site plan expire?
The site plan approval expired and they resubmitted this year.
Okay. Do I have any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve with staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Do I have any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion's approved. Okay, now we're on to agenda item 7, zoning ordinance amendment. Under A, article, what is that?
Article 9.
All right, I just want to make sure I got my Roman numerals correct. And 4?
Yeah.
Section 4.03, G Mobile food vendors. And next time, you might want to just have something in parentheses when we go to the Roman numerals, just to help the chairman out, so I don't have to go back to world civilization or whatever, world history or whatever that was.
You don't even know what Super Bowl that was.
I don't. I know that Wheel of Fortune is XL this year, so, which means 40.
Yeah, the first amendment, there's 2 separate amendments. The first amendment is to Article 9, which is our floodplain. And I apologize for the thickness of the packet because there's a lot to that. And basically, when I started, essentially what happens with this is FEMA tells you what you have to do to stay in the NFIP, the flood insurance program. And so you pretty much have to adopt what they send you unless you want to be more restrictive, which we have in one instance. And so when I started looking through what they sent me, in a lot of places it's the same ordinance we already have in place, but in a lot of places it was a little tweak here and a little tweak there, and we add a definition here and we take a definition out here. You know, it was almost easier to just, this is what we're taking out, what we currently have, and this is what we're doing, rather than go through and find every little tweak. So that's why it's so long. Essentially what we're doing is primarily, I think what we're doing is we are adopting a new set of flood maps that go into effect on May 9th of this year. And so we have to be in compliance with FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program. And for property owners in Smyrna to be able to buy flood insurance, we have to be a part of that program. To be a part of the program, we got to adopt the new ordinance and the new maps. And so that's the main focus of what we're doing here. Interestingly enough, not every map was changed. There's actually a couple of those, we're still using the old maps, but for the most part, most of the flood maps in Smyrna have been updated. And so that's the main thrust of this. Again, the one thing that we are proposing, we're not changing anything, it's just FEMA's standard ordinance does require 1 foot above flood elevation for a house. Smyrna has, for predating me being a part of the town's employment here, has required 3 feet above. And so we would keep that requirement in place. That would be the finished floor elevation of a residence would be required to be 3 feet above versus the 1 foot above. That's really the only thing that's different in this from what FEMA sent us. So there will be some procedural changes that are going to accompany some of this. FEMA did a community assistance visit, they call it, last year, and so we're going to there's some procedural changes we're going to have to make referring some permits and things that we're working through. Those are more internal processes. That's not a part of the ordinance, but and so again, what we would recommend is, again, delete what is currently Article 9 and replace it with the new Article 9, and would recommend that to you, to recommend it to council.
Okay, questions for Kevin concerning this?
Kevin, how frequently are the flood maps updated?
Well, this is the first time they've done it since 2008. They did prior to that there was 1998, and then they updated in 2007. Some of the panels got updated in 2008, and some didn't. And now this would be the first time since 2008, so.
Well, and I think you captured the importance of it. It allows the homeowners in Smyrna to be able to purchase flood insurance, and we have
Correct.
several areas where that's more than needed.
Yes, absolutely.
Other questions or comments?
And just as an aside, there's changes all across the board. Some places the floodplain actually is less on property, and some places it's more, and it's all across the board. So if anybody has any questions, I'll put this out to the public and any property owner. Certainly, we'd be happy to let you know what's going on with it. If you have questions, if you currently have flood insurance, is this going to affect me? Absolutely happy to. We've had a few folks call us already, and we'd be happy to do that again if anybody has any questions.
Okay. Anything else from the commission? If not, do I have a motion?
Move to approve, staff.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Okay, now Article 4, Section 4.030G, mobile food vendors.
Yeah, these are a couple of changes. It kind of came out of some discussion that the council had over the last several months. And this would kind of address a couple of issues that came up, and essentially it would be two separate things. One, any mobile food vendor, if they have a brick and mortar location within the town, that they would still have to have a permit if they wanted to have the mobile food truck, but they would not have to pay the fee, and which is $200 a year. So if they have a location, if they are either renting or own a location here in town, they could have the food truck as well. Still have to meet the requirements of the ordinance and everything, but they wouldn't have to pay the fee. The other change would be basically allow for the possibility someone could get a one-day permit instead of paying $200 if they're only going to be here for one day. They could pay $50 and be here for and do a one-day permit. And so that's really the only thing that's changing. All the other rules and everything would still be in place. It just allows for, again, exempting the brick and mortar locations from paying the fee, and then adding the possibility of a one-day permit at $50. So, and that's all. That's really all that's changing. We would recommend that to you.
Okay. Questions for Kevin concerning this? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the staff comments.
I have a motion to approve the staff comments from Amy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mike. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion's approved. Now we're on to that mandatory referral John Minor easement request for 825 Rock Springs Road.
Yeah, this is just this map kind of shows, highlights the easement a little bit better. The town owns the property there. It's that triangular piece that's on the map there, kind of highlighted in that kind of that light green color. We have some utilities in that area, including a natural gas regulator station. The developer would like to, basically, again, as we discussed earlier, construct an access across that property. We did have the letter of request that came with that. They didn't request a specific width of that easement. We would recommend no more than 30 feet. The proposed drive is 22 feet, so we recommend an easement no larger than 30. The planning commission is required to review this request, find whether or not it's in keeping with the adopted comprehensive plan, and make a recommendation to the council. We would recommend approval of this request.
Okay. Questions from Kevin concerning this easement request? If none, do I have a motion?
Somebody was going to, I'll second.
Is that Tony?
I'll approve it, or move to approve, yes.
Okay. And a second from Mark. Further discussion? All in favor of approving this easement request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. We are now on to the March bond review report.
All right, got several this month. Woodcrest, Section 5. This one is 100% built out. The developer said he would check on things and get back to me. I didn't hear back from him. We would recommend an extension on this to give him 6 months to get everything cleaned up out there. We need some cleanup items as well as put the final topping and striping down. So it does expire on the 14th of this month, so we wouldn't be able to finish that probably by then. So we recommend an extension there. Addition to Village of Valley Green 3. This one is about 84% built out. Talked to the developer there. He may complete that in the fall. There's about 9 lots left. He was going to try to get those constructed before he puts the final topping down. Would recommend an extension there to give him a chance to do that. Gwynn Farm, Section 2A. This is one we've only had for 1 year. They are about 57% built out there. I did talk to that developer. He said he would would review where they're at and get back to me. He did not in that time since last week, but we've only had that one 1 year. We would recommend a 1-year extension for them. Blakeney, Section 1, Phase 1, it's about 96% built out. Talked to the developer there. They plan to meet with the inspector on site in early April to go through the punch list. After that, they will complete it and do the final paving. So we would recommend a 6-month extension on that one to give them opportunity to take care of that. Creekstone Village. This is one that we're a little bit concerned about because the developer doesn't seem to, he's not responsive. last time, 6 months ago, he told me he was gonna take care of everything in December. He didn't. I'm not ready to recommend calling it yet, because I don't wanna do that just yet, but I think that's when we may have to, at some point, come back to you with that recommendation, because he's not been responsive. We would prefer, obviously, that he finish the work rather than calling the bond, but we may end up having to do that on that one. But not, again, not recommending that at this time. Buckingham Place, Section 2, Phase 1, this is the end of the maintenance period on that one. I did talk with Mr. Rose today. There were some issues out there with some street lights, and they are making some progress there, so I think that one's, hopefully that will be taken care of by April 10th. That's when it expires. So we can release that if all that is taken care of. Otherwise, we would want to extend it just to let them finish everything up. But hopefully, they were making progress. Hopefully, that'll get done by April 10th. So, and with that, that's all I've got.
Kevin, we have two that, I mean, it seems like continuing thing as far as final topping and striping, along with some other things, and especially with the one that you just mentioned on Creekstone.
Yeah.
Are we where we need to be bond-wise as far as if we had to do it?
Probably not, especially on Creekstone, because
Yeah.
that one's been 5 years, approaching 5 years. With the cost increases, again, that's why I hesitate to call. I would prefer he would just do the work.
That's going to take us right before you get to the end of the season, or right
That
before
would,
the.
that would be August.
Yeah, so that
Or,
would give us
no, that
what,
would be- I'm sorry, that would
another
be October, never mind, that would be October.
couple months, maybe?
Yeah.
No, if it's October, then,
So maybe we should just do 3 months on that one.
yeah.
I think that's probably a good idea to do 3 on Creekstone. That gets us to July. And if we have to call it, we can get the work done in July then, or August, so.
And we don't, or we do or we don't ever have the ability to go back and ask for an increase.
We can ask.
We can't require.
We've never been successful.
That's always been a problem.
Yeah.
I made a recommendation a few months ago about, is there any way that we can withhold that builder from getting new building permits until they complete this? Because that's what will make them do the work. And granted, it's not gonna be the case for every builder, because they're not
And
necessarily all
for this
building.
one,
but-
unfortunately, on this one, there are no more lots left to be built.
Well,
But if
not
you were
even
to
just
come-
on that development,
Yeah.
but that builder.
Yeah.
That particular developer, if he ever shows up again, I mean, I think this is the only development he's ever done in Smyrna. At least, well, he did do a commercial development. This is the only residential development he's done in Smyrna.
But we've got a couple of others that have active projects that
Yeah,
continue to just
certainly.
push off 6 months and 6 months. And if they knew they couldn't do any other work until this was done, they would absolutely get it done.
Is there any opportunity for any litigation, say that we are forced to complete this and it exceeds the bond amount? Can we pursue that?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think we could look at putting in the development agreement to what Mr. Dover's talking about. Maybe we can look at putting in our development agreements, maybe a clause that just lists something sort of like that tells them on the front end that if you don't do this, that we can withhold granting permission on any others.
Who sets the bond?
It's something we look at when they request a final plat to be recorded, is typically when it is. Occasionally, there's some commercial issues, COs is requested or something with landscaping not being done or something like that in the middle of winter, But typically, it's when a plat's be recorded. What I do at that time is I look at it, what's left to be finished, how long, what length of road are we looking at, that sort of thing. I'll typically talk quite often to our utilities department to be sure, because then sometimes there's some off-site sewer and those kind of things, like with that Gwen Farms project and things like that. But basically, primarily it is me that calculates that. We look at what's kind of the current cost of asphalt and that sort of thing. Problem is, 5 years later, things have changed so much, and
Do
so.
we need to look at doing increased bond amounts?
Yeah, and we do add 20% after we calculate,
Yeah, everything
So-
went up above 20%.
Yeah.
Well, that's just it.
I mean, that's in our regs right now. Whatever we calculate the cost would be to finish the project, we add 20%, but it's still not
But it's
enough.
just like the question was, could we do it for this amount? I look at this list, I said, there's no way to do it for what the bond is.
No,
I don't
not on that.
Especially the
that-
increases over the last
Right.
2 years.
Yeah.
Probably without the increases, it wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, well, and it was basically, we looked at the asphalt, the paving, you know, that sort of thing, and the problem is, there's been so many issues that have popped up because of the length of time,
Right.
milling, went to mill and redo some of the binder and all this kind of stuff, that adds so much cost to it, beyond just that initial, hey, we need to pave the road, basically, is all we looked at.
When y'all talk to the developers, Kevin, do they ever say, or do you ever ask, is there any discussion about how long it's gonna take to do that project?
Yeah, we always, yeah. and
So if
it-
we did,
Yeah.
we know on the front end it's gonna be 5 years, maybe we factor that in with
Yeah.
increases
Well,
every
and-
year.
And what's, some of the, like this Creekstone Village is not, it's been developed finished for a little while now.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a large 100 lot.
Right.
Section of a subdivision, there's
Right.
28 lots. It's one street, basically, with 28 lots on it.
Not hard to finish.
It's not hard to finish, yeah, it's, you know.
There's no incentive to do so, I guess is the whole
At
issue.
this time, there's
just
no incentive, and that's why I'm thinking we're gonna end up calling it, because there's no incentive for him to finish it. He's made the money he's gonna make on the project, he sold the lots. I don't think he actually is a builder, I think he sold lots to a builder.
Does the builder know what they bought? I mean, it's an unfinished development, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the homes have been sold, I think, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do believe.
And as long as I've been associated with the town council, almost 20 years now, this has been an issue. It's always been an issue. And you answer the same thing as we look at them, we raise them, but economic conditions are what they are. You don't know when they come in and get their building permits that they don't expect it's gonna take them 5 years to develop, but something happens and it delays it. And then they come back around and the bonds are what they are and asphalt's gone up, everything's gone up. And so setting a price at the beginning is the hard part. That's where we're stuck. We can't go back and ask them to, we could, but we have no recourse to ask them to increase the bond. There's got to be something on the back end that forces them to do it, because there's no incentives in losing a $16,000 bond when there's $30,000 worth of work. There's just no incentive for
Yeah,
it.
it makes no, financially, it makes no sense for him to go in and do the job, most likely, you know.
You know, if there was some way to start the clock, you know, when you're at 100% built out, you have X amount of time to complete
Finish the
this.
job, yeah.
Or what?
File a lien, I don't know, file a lien, pull your bond,
Yeah,
Well, we need to address that in the development agreement.
yeah.
on the front end.
There's got to be something that we can do that's,
And that's why I'm saying that if they're continuing to build, stopping that ability for them to continue to make money until they take
Yeah.
care of that, that's gonna be a bigger incentive than us continuing to ask, when are you gonna get this done?
yeah.
If he sold his lots already.
I mean, that's not gonna work in every case.
Yeah, it's that they don't care about building.
Yeah, if it's a situation where the developer and the builder are two completely different, which is the case sometimes and sometimes it's not, certainly. The developer, his incentive is to, if he wants to continue to sell lots in that development, he'll get the work done, but if it's at the end, you know, he sold all of his lots and the homes are all built to the builders. In most cases, it's no longer in the development either, because they've already sold their lots. They sold their houses already, and they built their lots, and so they're done, so.
There's a couple in here that, you know, I know you reached out to them and they've not called you back.
Yeah.
And so that's a problem too.
Right.
If I'm doing a development inside the city somewhere, I'm gonna call back the town planner
Yeah.
if he's called for me. I mean, it's
And
important.
some developers are very good at return calls.
Yes,
and
they are.
return
Some are,
emails,
yeah.
and some
I'm not
aren't.
knocking them all. I
No,
don't mean
some,
that.
so, yeah, some are and some aren't, yeah.
could you and Jeff maybe look at that and see what we might be able to do on the front end and see if there's any measures that we can do somewhere along the line? I mean, maybe there's a maximum amount of extensions, I don't know, or,
I'll do that,
Maybe-
we'll talk about it at the next meeting.
okay, that sounds good. All right. A lot of good discussion on the bond review report. So with that, are there any further questions or anything we need to discuss further? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve with comments.
I have a motion to approve with comments from Amy. Do I have a second?
Do we need to include the 3 months?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that was,
In the
that was
motion.
part of your comments, correct?
yeah, because that was our comments to change it to 3 months, and she said approve it with those comments.
With those
so-
comments.
Okay, you good with that, Tim?
Yep.
All right. Is that a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the bond review report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The report is approved. Oh, yeah. Let's go around. Staff comments.
I don't have anything.
Catherine?
No.
Counselor?
Nothing from me.
Anything out here? Rick, anything from you? Anything from the commission? This will be the last meeting for Tony and Andrew. They're going to roll off the commission. Tony, I was trying to think back about how long I've served with you or in some capacity maybe as planning, even when you were on the council and then the mayor. You know, the thing that's always impressed me, actually, two things. Number one, your servant's heart. You've always stepped up when the call's been there, and for that, I always appreciated that in you. The second thing is, you never cease to amaze me with your ability to understand most anything that's put in front of you, whether it be zoning, you know, the makeup of chemicals in some type of treatment or some IT process or whatnot. I mean, you've always been such a quick study, and you're always that go-to guy when, you know, when I was like, you know, what are we looking at exactly here? So for that, I appreciate you and appreciate your service. Andrew, you're leaving us way too soon. You've gone from that.
At least had time to wear it in my welcome.
Yeah. You've gone from that rookie to that Pro Bowl veteran. And, you know, the insight and perspective that you brought to the Planning Commission was refreshing. And the dedication that you've shown while you served was just impeccable. So I'm not going to say goodbye to you guys, because I don't want it to be a final goodbye. We're going to say for now.
For now.
And I hope that there's an opportunity in the future to work with both of you. It's been my pleasure, and I know it's been the pleasure of the commission and the staff as well. So thank you both for all that you've contributed over the years.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we're adjourned.
Oh, we said some things.
Couldn't say them on
Hey,